Tabu Mayiso has been locked up for 8 years. His mother says it's for his own safety. Tabu is mentally ill and his behavior had become dangerously erratic.
Ebyo bintu byabanga tibyaidanga mizimu. Yatandika okutambulanga n'eddagala lino ly'ekizungu ly'ekirugavu eryo. Yena yagema akasawo yajayo n'amayembe yo bakuba. Epera nawe nawonanga bali kumukuba n'okumwingiza mu nnumba omwo.
Margaret says as a young boy, Tabu was very close to his father and his behavior changed when his dad died.
Watuuka ku lubigi lw'ennumba y'omuntu y'obundi ng'akuba ti eno epiki eno ya taata. Sinaani eno ya baben. Ng'agema era eyo yasubulako ente yagireeta wano nga yamugiraani awo. Yasibula ente yaleeta wano nguli baali bantu bani nguli bayita. Ati ente eno ya baba.
In rural Uganda, access to mental health care is virtually impossible, especially for families with the lowest income. An estimated 14 million Ugandans suffer mental illness, from mild depression to more serious conditions like tabus. But with no diagnosis or treatment, many families must care for people as best they can.
Yeno namwene naja nalongoza natoola kwapamye kungo ye nafulumya okwoza kuba ano yeye naye tasobola kuingira mu nyumba atya.
Tabu has attacked his sister in the past. His mother can only enter the hut when he is calm and not during one of his violent episodes. This type of illness is poorly understood in areas like this, and there is a stigma attached. I wanted to speak to some of Tabu's neighbors. There is sympathy, but many are glad he is under control.
Ebintu ayogera bintu fa tichi tosobola kutegeera bwenaawo yatandika kubinga abantu kubakuba banaawo twa.
So you think the family is right to lock him up?
Kubanga bali kwonoona bintu.
Wachike penye mati epecho. Amoti mereko ligo. Mina kina anwang. Kiri kono nfodgo go walk. Gotiati out. So we just scared.
You're scared of him?
Yes.
Godfrey is a childhood friend of Tabu's.
Okutwaliza wamu era nkiraba bubi nnyo era kinkwasa ennaku era n'okunyola kw'amaanyi.
Godfrey visits regularly, and Tabu seems to recognize his old friend. It's the only time I see him smile. Just a small network of community mental health facilities exists in Uganda. The government spends less than 1% of its health budget on mental illness, mostly in one hospital in the capital, Kampala. Without diagnosis and treatment, there is little understanding of conditions. Twalaha is 10. He takes medicine for epilepsy, but his parents say he shows signs of mental illness. They just can't find a doctor with the right expertise.
Tukyanyonyereza obuyambi obwo naye tetunnaba kubufuna. Obw'okutuyamba oba singa wabeerawo omuntu n'agamba nti omwana ono katumutwale tujje tumuyambe mujja kujja mumulambuulenga ekyo tukyagala.
Looking after Twalaha is exhausting. He doesn't speak and he's distant, often in his own world. His parents must watch him all the time to make sure he doesn't wander off. They also face problems with the community.
Nekati abantu bo balamu balabanga mmwe mulina ekizibu ng'ekyo tebabalaamu mbeera nnungi.
Kati kyenyongerako nti abantu batya nti obulwadde obwo bujja kubakwata era tebaagala agende waabwe kuba bujja kubakwata tebaagala kumusemberera tebalowooza nti bujja kubakwata.
There is a motion in Parliament to increase mental health funding, but that will take time. And there is another issue. A large number of the population especially in rural areas, don't trust professional health workers. They seek help from churches and traditional healers like Sifuna Joseph. Joseph says he treats all illnesses, often with plants and herbs. He says he treats mental illness too, though he's vague on exactly how. So people with mental health issues, what do you give them? Tabu's mother took her son to see Sifuna Joseph several years ago. Her late husband was himself a traditional healer, and she put her faith in others like him. But Margaret had to sell land to afford the prices.
Hallelujah. May God help you right now. May God touch your child. Some of you are tired. You feel like running away from your family.
With nowhere else to turn, many put their faith in God.
If you have your child, you brought your child, the child is sick.
Family members are brought to church in the hope of divine healing.
With active faith, I assure you are going to be healed.
Uganda is one of Africa's fastest growing economies, and poverty has been reduced in recent years. But millions of mental health sufferers cannot access the medical treatment they need. They are often left with little more than a prayer.
And if you want to see a dubbed version of Jamal's report, it will be available online later this evening. And a little earlier, I spoke to Dr. Sagane Musisi from Makerere University College of Health Sciences, whose research includes the study of mental health care in Africa. I began by asking him the stigma surrounding the treatment of people with mental health problems in Uganda.
Locking up people with severe mental illness is spread the whole world over. It is more, of course, prevalent in communities where there's little access to care. And in rural Africa, that's very common, not just in Uganda, but on the whole continent.
Are there enough efforts being made to actually tackle this problem and educate people?
In colonized Africa, colonial governments did very little to establish mental health care. In fact, they dichotomized mental health care from physical care, which traditionally was viewed as one whole health problem, whether it's physical or mental. But when they came, they did not put in mental health care until very much later.
There are many people we saw in Jamal's film, for instance, who rely on traditional methods. Is there a way to continue respecting those traditional methods, but to actually also ensure that they get medical help when needed?
Trying to understand African traditional medicine is what we are trying to do today in research to see what it is that can be adopted to modern health treatments. So training we need to do, budgeting we need to do to be able to increase access. We are trying to establish mobile mental health clinics, just like there are mobile, for example, antenatal clinics. But people go from, say, district hospital, they go out in the rural communities where people are and give them treatment.
What are the challenges that you face in trying to bring about these reforms, such as mobile mental health clinics?
The most important thing is to increase mental health literacy so that people, not only the communities are aware of it, but the policymakers, the health workers, and those who are going to do budgets for them. And the second is to, of course, to finance it. Because once there is policy, a ministry policy to do it, then it will be done. But there's very poor funding for mental health, and that's a big problem.
And what do you think will change attitudes ultimately?
Oh, I think there's about 3 factors. One, to increase mental health literacy in all spheres, in government, in ministries, in ordinary people, in planners. 2, to increase the mental health budget. And 3, to train more mental health workers. Right now, for example, in Uganda, there are no career paths in the Ministry of Health for paramedical mental health workers, like psychologists, like social workers, like counselors. And of course, politicians have to be on board, because if they don't understand it, they will not fund it.
Dr. Sigane Musisi, thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you very much. I've enjoyed talking to you.